Hi and hello, my name is Cass and welcome to my channel where I read a lot of books and I talk about them. July is over, so you know what that means. Time for my monthly wrap-up. This month I read 11 books, so let's get into it. First up, we have a book that's a bit of a leftover from last month. I was reading Bad Gays into this month. This is a nonfiction book about queer people in history who aren't regarded well for various reasons. I started it at the tail end of June with the intention of finishing it quickly within like 1 or 2 days, and that so didn't happen. However, that being said, I did really enjoy it. My main complaint was that the beginning few people in here, that they didn't really like explain why these people were regarded as like bad gays, as it were, and I didn't recognize any of their names, so I was like, who are these people? Why are they bad necessarily? But later in the book, like, that really wasn't as much of a problem, so. But overall, this was a very fun nonfiction read, and I gave it 4 stars. Next up, we are onto the books that are actually were actually on my TBR for this month. I listened to the audiobook for Evergreen by Devin Greenlee. It's actually narrated by the same guy who narrated Don't Let the Forest In and Hazelthorne by C.G. Drews. And while I read those physically, like I own them, I've heard the sound bites from the audiobooks, and they're like all fantastic. So I was really, excited, and I greatly enjoyed his reading of the book. So Evergreen is about a teenage boy named Quill who is part dryad. His mother has like kept him separate from the world for his entire life since he hasn't developed powers yet. As far as they're aware, he is like the only male dryad that has ever existed. So when the opportunity ends up in his lap in the form of a new neighbor, Quill ends up forming a friendship with him because he has literally been kept away from people for his entire life. However, in the background, there is also something dark growing in his family's garden, which is the source of their, dryad magic, and therefore that dark thing is threatening Quill and his family. Wow, talk about a plot twist and a bit of a genre shift at like 80% into this book. The first part is very much like queer romance. It's focusing on the growing romance between Quill and his new neighbor, Liam. Then, like, boom, world-ending evil appears. And it was a little like Whiplash. I liked the romance overall, but the timeline of this entire book is, like, insane. The entire plot happens in, like, 2 weeks. And then the epilogue takes place a week later at the 3-week mark, and that's when we get a love confession. So, like, yeah, three weeks to be in love. It's a little bit of a lot. And also, for a book that is mostly a romance, one of the plot twists towards the end of the book really soured me on the romance, and that's kind of a problem. Especially when you've got love confessions going on, like, at the 3-week mark. You gotta have me buy that this relationship is, like, the end-all be-all, and when you have a plot twist I'm not getting into, that, like, sheds a whole different bad light on most of the relationship, problem. Not great. However, that being said, I did enjoy this book for the most part. I did end up giving it 4 stars just for pure enjoyment. Yeah, it had its problems, but it was a fun book. While I listened to that on my, many treks back and forth to my parents' house, I also picked up A Certain Hunger by Chelsea G. Summers. This book is about a woman named Dorothy as she tells her life story now that she is in prison for murder. Only one, though, of the many she's committed, which, she reveals over the course of the book. She's like, I've only been caught for 1 murder. You'll never prove the others. So this book was weird and, like, beautifully written, with a large dose of just incredible brutality. Summers does not shy away from the descriptions, both the normal ones and the murderous ones. Dorothy is a despicable person. But she is an absolutely fascinating point of view character. Her voice is strong and captivating. She is a self-professed psychopath, walking you through all of the horrible things that she has done as casually as she explains how she got into being a food critic and like where her career took her. And I ate that up. Pun not intended, given the cannibalism. Yeah, she eats pieces of the men she kills. She is something. I think this book is like a prime example of you don't have to like a character to enjoy the story, because Dorothy is despicable. She murders people. Specifically, she murders people that she loves. Like, she has to, except for the last murder, like, she specifically murders these men that she, like, either loved or loves in her own twisted way. So yeah. Yeah. I gave this book 4.5 stars. I actually really loved it. It was really good. Next up, I read Juniper and Thorn by Ava Reed. I've of course read 2 of Ava Reed's young adult books, but this is the first adult book of hers that I've read, and I was interested, for sure. This book is about Marlishan. She is a young witch who is kept under the thumb of her, super abusive wizard father, along with her 2 older sisters. The 3 sisters sneak out at night, and while they're out, Marlishan meets this, beautiful ballet dancer who she eventually begins, a forbidden romance with. Meanwhile, there's, a threat to the city that's growing and growing, and she's gotta find a way to defeat it. This book had a lot of flowery prose, to the extent that sometimes I thought it made things, harder to understand. And that's a lot for me, because I am a lover of the pretty prose. Still, I did enjoy this book overall. The magic system wasn't super clear, which in a lot of ways I think was because Marlishan didn't understand it. And I was kept guessing on what the twists were throughout, basically the entire book until they came out. I don't necessarily understand where it's pulling inspiration from the juniper tree fairy tale, outside of that there is a juniper tree, but maybe I'm just missing something. I looked up the fairy tale after I, read it, or, while I was reading it, out of curiosity, and I was like, is this a retelling? I don't know. Overall, I enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. Then I picked up The Ones We Burn. Ooh. It's shiny, so it's got glare on it. The Ones We Burn by Rebecca Mix. This book is about Renka. She is a blood witch who has been chosen as a treaty bride to the human prince, who's soon to be king. She travels to their kingdom with the intent to kill him, and in her opinion, free her people, fellow witches. Only to figure out that he's actually super nice and gentle and doesn't even want to be king. Unlike his sister, who Renka is more wary of because she's more obviously cunning, and very much does want to be queen. However, a plague that seems to specifically target witches draws Renka and the princess to join forces to try and find a cure. At the end of the day, this book is really about trauma and cycles of abuse and the things you block out mentally due to insane intense trauma. The entire thing with blood witches seems to be activated by super intense traumatic experiences that they then completely block out, so they can't even remember it. Renka's journey is centered around facing that and choosing herself, and I did not expect that from this book at all. It was done really well, in my opinion. I do wish more time was spent on the relationships, especially with how important they end up being to Renka's journey, to choosing herself instead of focusing on other people so much. But it wasn't missing so much that was completely unbelievable or anything. I gave this book 4 stars. I had a good time reading it. Surprise breakout hit for me, I read Summerlong by Peter Beagle on my sister's recommendation. The last Peter Beagle book I read, I didn't really enjoy at all, but this one I enjoyed a whole lot more, surprisingly. So Summerlong is about this family of 3 that is impacted by the arrival of a woman named Lioness to their small community, and with her she brings this perfect spring and summer. However, she is running away from something and it is slowly catching up to her. I mentioned in my TBR that this was a Hades and Persephone story, and it is, but it also isn't. Really, it's a story about mortals and how they're impacted by gods coming into their world and their lives, and we're seeing these gods from their perspective. It's a really odd experience for them because they're observing all these weird oddities that gods just do. And their lives are like changed completely by these interactions and the things that happen. It was really good. I really liked this one. I gave it 4 stars. You'll notice a trend. Next up, I read Gold and Gossamer by Riley S. Quinn. This is a book that I have been looking forward to since it was released late last year. Gold and Gossamer is about Dante. He is the Mage King of Avonbend, who is regarded as the shield to the human lands. He keeps them safe from the fairies and their queen because his kingdom is basically like in between fairyland and the rest of the human lands. However, Dante thinks that the stories of the fairy queen are probably like greatly exaggerated, so he ventures out to ask her for help with, you know, a like rot that is affecting his kingdom's like crops. Meanwhile, she laughs at him, and the two end up in this rivalry that slowly turns into a friendship and then into a romance. Meanwhile, the other human kingdoms, like wariness of Dante, becomes more and more of a problem. So this book has a weird dichotomy for me, in that in the beginning I felt like it was slow, because it was really slow to hook me. But the end was like way too rushed. As I got close to the end, I kept going like, what? There's like no way there's like 20 pages left. There's no way there's 10 pages left. But oh, it did. I honestly think this book would have been better served as like a comic. Which I say because the author has like several animatics and designs that could have used the room to breathe. Like this is her art on the cover. And that being said, like, she doesn't really describe the main characters at all, and she describes some of the side characters, but not all of them. So if you come into this without, like, a general knowledge of who these characters are and what they look like, you're just kind of making it up. But regardless, yeah, I think this either should have been a comic or it should have been divided into 2 books. Because I really think the narrative could have used the room to breathe. Like, the war arc in the latter half is, like, just pushed through so fast. I would have liked more just information on Dante's, like, prior relationship with Lumina, who's, you know, ends up being a big antagonist at the, you know, latter half. And I would have liked to have more insight on, like, her being the ultimate villain and like what her mindset is. Like, I don't really understand how or why she got to the point that she got to, or like why she believed what she did. Like, what was her goal? Like, it kind of tells you, but like, why do all this? Because it really doesn't explain how she got to this point at all. We don't get any of that. There are just a lot of questions left over. So, like, this book is full of, like, really excellent ideas and interesting, like, paths it could have taken, but the execution wasn't so great, which led to me giving this book a 3.75. Next up, I read To Kill a Kingdom by Alexandra Christo. This is a story of Lyra. She is a siren who kills princes, and Elian, a prince who is famously known as a siren hunter. When circumstances force Lyra to kill a mermaid, her mother, who is the sea queen, turns her human, with the only way for her to come back is to bring the queen Prince Elian's heart by, like, the winter solstice. Lyra ends up on Elian's siren hunter crew and their ship, and the two end up embarking on a journey for a magical object that could fulfill both of their desires. This is obviously a Little Mermaid retelling, and honestly, it's very good. It changes the story enough to not, like, be boring or easily predictable, and the dynamic between Lyra and Elian is really fun. It was a bit rushed in some places. Given it's a standalone book, there's a lot to shove in there. But overall, the romance was satisfying. The ending was good, and it was an enjoyable read all the way through. I gave it 4.5 stars. At least the month had, you know, some higher hits. Rounding out my planned TBR, I read The Island of Sea Women by Lisa C. Oh boy, this book was a lot. I read most of it on the plane ride to visit my sister. Um, but yeah, a little bit traumatizing for a plane ride. This book follows the life of Young Suk and her friendship with her best friend Mija as they begin working with their island's all-female diving collective. The book goes through like decades of their lives as the island they live on, Jeju Island, is occupied by the Japanese and then by the American Army through many wars and horrible traumatizing war crimes. Holy crap. This book was good, but it was brutal. Young Suk goes through literal, like, hell throughout her life, and the book does not shy away from the horrible crimes committed against the people of Jeju by the Japanese, by the Americans, even by, like, the Korean people who, like, they consider their own people. Young Suk may not have been like a real person, but the experiences she goes through was reality for many people, and it's rough. Like, I had no clue, like, I didn't even know Jeju Island existed, but I sure do now. Oh my god, it is, there's no words for the depravity that people can commit to other human beings. I gave this book 3.5 stars, because I did like it, but I didn't always love the writing style, and like I said, it was difficult to read it sometimes. Like, I'm glad I read it, but I will probably never pick it up again. Outside of my planned books, I read Case File Compendium 1 and 2 by Meat Bun. Meat Bun being a translation of her online name, of course, since this is a Danmei series that was originally posted online. Her full, like, screen name is Meat Bun Doesn't Eat Meat, I think. I've only read the first 2 books of this particular 10-book series. I'm also not sure if I'm gonna finish it, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. So, Case File Compendium is about a young man named Haeyu. He's the main character, who he suffers from this fictional mental condition called psychological Ebola. He's only the 4th person in the entire world in all of history to have it, and it causes him to feel like this intense bloodlust, and he suffers from physical symptoms like high fever, like when it flares up. His former doctor, Jay Xingsheng, ends up back in his life as Haeyu attempts to romance Xingsheng's like younger sister, which of course, because this is Danmei, does not work out for him. The two end up dragged into mysteries like surrounding their pasts and their complicated relationship. That's kind of the best I can do description-wise. There's a lot of things happening in this series, even in just the first 2 books. Like, I don't know, I think maybe this is a thing in Danmei. I think I've mentioned this before with, like, Heaven Official's Blessing, specifically, of, like, my description does not do this justice because there is a lot happening at any given time. Now, on to why I'm hesitant on if I'll actually continue the series. To put it frankly, there's sexual assault between the male lead and the main character. You know, the ones that you're supposed to root for to eventually get together romantically. And it's graphic, too, which is not great. Yeah. Like, sure, you could say with context that Haeyu is going through a mental episode. Sure, does not make it any less messed up. Also, there's, like, at least so far, there's no apology or anything. I don't know. Maybe it comes in the later books. It's just really hard for me to root for a couple when there is, like, assault involved. In general, but especially before they got together, because, like, why would you ever interact with this person again unless you're forced to? This is why I don't read a lot of dark romance books, despite the fact that I technically like the genre. I don't like the dark romance being taken out on who is supposed to be your romantic partner. You know, I like dark romance in the, like, vein of, like, I would kill for you, I would die for you, I would, like, do anything. Like, think Scum Villain in terms of Danmei. Of, like, that romance, if Shin Shingshu was not the main, like, the narrative point in that book, it would so be a dark romance, because Binghee is, like, unhinged. but like it's very much in a I love you, please don't abandon me, like don't, like I will kill and die for you, I would do anything for you kind of way, not in a I'm gonna assault you because I'm mad at you. Didn't love it, did not love it, didn't like that. But I don't know, we'll see where I land on, I guess. I'll think about it. Also, quite frankly, it is kind of uncomfortable to read like the constant descriptions of how homophobic these two men apparently are. Like it's like I'm homophobic. Well, I'm also homophobic. I can't stand gay men. And I'm like, "Hey guys, that's weird and uncomfortable." But okay, sure. Yeah. And another thing, I guess, I just don't love the writing style so far. Um I don't know if it's just this one series. I do have the first of another Meat Bun series. I have the first of Husky and his white cat Shizun. So I'm gonna give that a shot since I already own the first one. And see if maybe her writing of like historical Danmei is a bit better in my opinion, but who knows. In any case, I gave this first book 4 stars and I gave the second one like a 3.5 star. It was great in the first half, and then it wasn't. Yeah, so that's it for my books of this month. So let's talk about favorite and least favorite of the month. For favorite, it's definitely A Certain Hunger by Chelsea G. Summers. That book was just so interesting to read. It had like a compelling protagonist despite her very messed up actions. I just had a really great time reading along and like seeing where she would go next with her life and like her weird murder plots. As for least favorite, despite the rating technically not being the lowest of the month, I think I have to say it's Golden Gossamer. I was just really disappointed since I was like so excited to finally read this book, and it was a weird mix of rushed and slow, and it was just really disappointing. I really do wish the author had made it into a comic or split it into 2 like books, just to give it room to breathe and give us time with things, but here we are, I suppose. With that done though, let's move on to the top 10. Did any books make it to the top 10 this month? Yes, just one. So let's take a look at the list from last month. So last month we had at number 10, Half a Soul, A Study in Drowning, In the Dream House, the Iron Widow series, the Shepherd King duology, the Scum Villain Self-Saving System series, Word Slut, the Hierarchy series, A Stage Set for Villains, and coming in at number 1, we have Heaven Official's Blessing, the whole series. So as you can see, there's just been one change for this month. So we, in the number 9 slot, instead of A Study in Drowning, we have instead put A Certain Hunger by Chelsea G. Summers. I thought about it and I was like, do I want to knock Half a Soul off? But honestly, I think I might have, like, with the Study in Drowning series being like one of the first things I read, I was like, I don't know if I rated those, like I would rate them the same now as I did then. So I decided that A Certain Hunger would go in the 9th place instead of, Study in Drowning. So that's how the list stands now. And with that, that is the end of our July wrap up. So thanks for hanging out with me as we talked about this month's reads. And as always, I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.